friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 162. Today is July 18th, 2025. I am Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Thanks so much for joining me. We're under a heat advisory today, again, about maybe 3 days this week, and I'm so thankful for air conditioning. It's interesting, I was conversing through email with a friend of mine in London, where they've been having some very hot weather, and it is hot in London. It's been 90, which is hot here. We would say that was hot, but by and large, they don't have air conditioning. So they have open windows and fans. So I thought that was interesting. But anyway, I have air conditioning and I'm glad of it. Flosstube means cross stitch and variety show means something else. I have not been here for 2 weeks, and that was because I knew I was having a busy week and I didn't want to come back with a video with nothing to show for it. But I feel like I have enough to show for it today. I'll start with Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. My goal is to finish this by the end of the year. And I think I can do that. This is where I am. This is the whole piece. I mean, when I look at it in the camera, I'm pretty impressed with it. I've been working over here. I worked a lot on those 3 women who are there. And I also worked some up in here, sort of following threads around. There's a lot still of, I mean, it's all confetti. It really is. But soon I'm going to get done with their garments and their faces. There's also somebody back here, a person. And then I have some rose bushes up here. And after that, it's all marble and this bit of sky. And I have been finishing a lot of colors, actually. I have, and I'm down to, I have about 9% left to go. So I'm about 90. Now I have about 10% left to go. So about 7,200 stitches, give or take. I don't remember exactly. I keep track of this on a spreadsheet. I do not bore you with the spreadsheet, so you get estimates, you get generalities. I also pulled out Bertram Savile Ogle. This was in the All Things Bright and Beautiful red box. I just think it's so cute. And I'm doing this on 46 count Latte by somebody using 103s. And I finished the whole top row of the motifs. And I've brought down the border on this side a little bit also. I think I had it up to about here. I hadn't done this corner or going down there. It's very fun to work on. Each little motif feels like a finish. And it is, you know. That's how we have to think of things, which it makes full coverage. That was very interesting. I think I just turned off the camera. And I didn't know I could do that by scratching my arm, but you know, I have my Apple Watch. Anyway, so there'll be some kind of editing happening. And I think I had finished saying that I enjoy this because each little motif is like a finish. And full coverage is hard because you're not finished until you're finished in a piece like that. So as I had threatened, I did start a Quaker pattern book with my needle. This is designed by Ellen Chester, who I have gotten to know through the Queen City Sampler Guild in Cincinnati. And I think it's a great little idea because it's this little accordion, it results in this little accordion book, 2-sided pages with Quaker motifs and this beautiful alphabet on it. And I ordered a piece of, so her instructions which of course you can make it any size you want. I could have done it on 14 count Aida if I wanted to. There's nothing in the stitching that you can't do on Aida, by the way. It's all cross stitch, I think, 99% sure. But she calls for 28 count Lugana, and you stitch over one. Well, I didn't want to do that. I do have some 28 count Lugana, but I don't mind stitching over one, but if I can avoid it easily, I would rather not do it. And so I bought some 56 count Albarium from Cedar River Linens and Designs, and this is such a beautiful, I mean, it looks white in the camera, and it's close to white. It is really similar to white, but it isn't completely pure white, and I'm using Soie surfine. I have, in the description field, I have all the details, and I have never stitched on 56 count before. This is the first thing I'm doing, and I started with the most stitch intensive panel because it's labeled as number 1. You know, you have to do what it says. Actually, this one right here might be pretty intensive as well, but this is the panel I'm doing. And I think this is just spectacularly precious, the way that Soie surfine lies on the 56 count linen. It's great. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work on that. Other people have said they need to work on 56 count in the daytime and so on. I think with my magnification and light setup, I can do it anytime. Hannah Green, 1836. This is, 1826. As you will know if you've watched my videos before, I have found myself kind of leading a stitch along, which, if you want information about that, I would say the best place to get it is my video number 139, I think. It's from December last year. And so I show the layout, and I am keeping up so far. I've kept up. This is the whole thing that I've done. Now so I've worked mostly right here. This is the July section. You see I have this chrysanthemum to finish and this to fill in. And this is done. And then July also had assigned one line of the verse, so I started that. This is over 1. This is the Jesus, permit thy gracious name to stand verse. And what I discovered having done this section, which was June maybe, I think, that it's not possible. The way I had laid it out, it would have been very difficult to finish it by March 1st, 2026, which is 200 years after Hannah finished hers, because this solid stitching at the bottom is just too much for that. So what I am doing is I'm working on one of the solid stitching sections bit by bit to finish it in August, so that I will get ahead by one solid stitching section and then sort of redistributing what else comes. So this time I had done these sheep before, but I did some more of the green, and then I did the 2 birds and the cow and this other sheep. So now I'm done. All of the animals are done up to the cow. There's 2 or 3 more sheep over here in the section that would have been assigned for October perhaps, or November. So anyway, in the description field, I lay out my alternate plan for how I'm doing this, how I'm hoping to do it. That means that this section down here, which I'm sorry I didn't get out the division, but this section down here, including all the sheep, all the sheep, the idea is that that is all supposed to be done, all these central sheep, not these sheep over here, all of those sheep, that all is supposed to be done by the end of August. along with the August assignments up here in the over one verse assignment. So that's how I'm choosing to do this. Some people are working on scroll rods, and so they're not going to work down the side. They're working across the top. I just warn you, there's a lot of solid stitching. Now I'm actually ahead up here in this corner, and to recap, I started this like this on the fabric, and an alert viewer said it's not going to fit that way, which, yes, thank you, Leslie. She is absolutely right. It wouldn't have. So I turned it 90 degrees, and I just kept this flower and this portion of the border that I had already worked on and backed up until I got to this corner in order to start it in the correct orientation. So the stitches on this are, I doubt you can tell, are going the wrong way on this flower and this part of the border. But then I think somewhere in here is where I picked up and went the correct way in terms of which way the cross is made. And my thought is, if it really bothered me when I got to this section, I would tear out that flower and do it correctly. And I can't. From a normal viewing distance, well, I can tell, but I don't care. And I think from this is from the 8-inch viewing distance of the person who knows to look for it. From a normal viewing distance where you might be, 3 or 4 feet from it hanging on the wall, there's absolutely no way that you will be able to see that. So I'm definitely not taking that out. This is very fun to work on. Even the solid stitching is fun to work on. It's just there's so much of it is the only reason I'm trying to get ahead of it. And the over one, I'm using Soie 103, and this is 36 count, just the ticket. So 103 on 36 count for the over one is working very well. Now, what I really worked on, what I focused on the whole first week after my last video, so it's been 2 weeks since my video, was in praise of the Needle Hussif by Jane Greenoff. And this is for the class that I have signed up for at the Mrs. Parkman's Academy of Needlework in October, very soon from now. In England, that Leslie and I are going to. And I just wanted to say right now, I joined in on the Queen City Sampler Guild Zoom stitching evening last night and met Leslie, who is coming to that event, and Kim is coming to that event. And apparently there are many other Queen City Sampler Guild people coming to that event. So if you happen to be watching this video, and hello Leslie, I think you probably are, I hope that we can get a group picture of Queen City Sampler Guild people with Nicola at the event. Or even if we can't get Nicola, we can get ourselves. So I'm going to try to figure out how to get ourselves connected there. But I've been working on this. There's actually quite a bit of stitching in this. This panel has a lot. There's a lot of stitching and back stitching, and this printout is terrible. This panel down here, likewise, a lot of stitching. Now, where you see these dark things, that is silk lining, which has been hand stitched to the back side of some of the other panels, where the stitching is on the other side of the fabric, so that when it all folds up, it becomes something. It becomes, I don't know. I'm not sure what it's going to be. The instructions show it, but putting it together is what we're going to be doing when we get to our class with Jane Greenoff. And it's quite a mental exercise to get things in the right place and on the right side of the fabric. So what I spent my time doing, so I had already stitched this, which is mostly finished. It's back stitched. It is lacking some French knots and a couple of butterflies or something aren't in there. But I had already done that for the most part, and I had done most of this alphabet section, and these are correct. They're divided from each other with four-sided stitch, pulled a little bit so it's a little bit lacy, with the idea that it's something that you fold. You'll end up folding the piece on. And then the very next thing you see, this is the back, because you're supposed to stitch it on the other side of the fabric. And not only on the other side of the fabric, but upside down. So this is what that does. So I did that, and then I decided now what I want to do is to get started on each of the other panels so that I can just pick it up to work on it without having to do all the figuring. So I did. So this one I finished, and then I did the four-sided stitch, some of which is backwards. So this is the back of a four-sided stitch, right? Yes. But on the front, it's the four-sidedness. And I'm using a thread that matches, whoops, that's the back. There's four-sided stitch, isn't it? Oh, those are both correct. Anyway, those are the four-sided stitch. And then this one, this little panel is done. But first, when I was first working on it, I just did enough of that vine part to get it oriented. And then this part is blank, and when I was stitching this, when I was working on this, I put a great big bunch of threads through there. I just stitched some random threads through there to remind myself to not stitch anything here. And now this one is upside down and on the back, so I laid that one out. And yes, I think I have finished this panel now, including the back stitching. I don't think there's anything else missing there. Another blank one, which I marked out with threads. And now I've started, and then I laid out these two, this one, which is, I think, upside down. See, I don't even know. Yes, it is upside down. So you're looking at it right side up, I think. And then this is the last panel that is, again, some floral design. And then there is a final panel which gets sewn onto that. It isn't done as part of this one long strip. It's a separate piece that gets sewn on, which I haven't done. It's something that's going to be easy to do because it's just one thing. It is itself. So this is where I am on this. So this is the first side. And then this is the back. Except for me to actually show it to you, I should show it to you like this. This is the back. And I understand why people are having trouble with this, because it is confusing. And I found that I had to, no Flosstube running, no Tour de France, no extraneous noise running while I got started on each of these, because I laid out this, I would say, this is right side up, this is right side up, this is upside down and backwards, and I would just go and I would make sure meticulously to carry down all of the things that I could tell from this. And the pattern is also marked. It says, do this right side, this four-sided stitch from the right side of the fabric, do this on the wrong side of the fabric. So it tells, the pattern is very good about telling. Nonetheless, it is confusing. Now, I know a few people have not done the back stitching, and I think the back stitching is essential. I haven't done French knots. There's a French knot center there, and I think there. But the back stitching absolutely brings it to life. I don't know how you could not do it. And I don't mind back stitching at all. I kind of like it. Especially, I mean, I wouldn't want to do a 1980s country style piece with a teddy bear and a fireplace situation with all the back stitch that would really bring that to life. but I would certainly appreciate that the back stitch is necessary there. One of the things I like about samplers is that, about reproduction samplers, is that they don't have back stitch for the most part. So, variety show. Within the past couple of weeks, Teresa, one of my viewers and a friend I met in England 2 years ago, posted a picture of, which of course was beautifully staged and had appropriate music selected that related to the date of the piece. And I was inspired to think about music that relates to the time period that our samplers come from, our reproduction samplers. And I am a musicologist by training, and I used to know off the top of my head the dates and, birth and death dates of composers and the first performance dates of many famous important pieces of music. I don't know that anymore. I have not my brain has not done those things in decades, literally decades. But I have been interested in choral music because I, up until a few years ago, sang in our church choir, and have sung in other choral organizations over the years. And choral music, of course, has words which hymn texts and hymn verses appear on samplers sometimes. And in fact, when I create my own sampler, which I still am thinking I'm going to do, it has occurred to me that in addition to the words of some hymns that I particularly like, that I might put into my sampler, I should put some musical notes into my sampler, because I'm a musicologist, and that's my language, or certainly it was my language. So I began to think about hymns from the 19th century and hymnals and all that kind of thing. And so I just wanted to talk a bit about hymnals in particular, and then I'll get a little bit into certain pieces of music. So this is an example of a quote-unquote modern hymnal. It isn't all that modern, actually. It was published in 1962, so it's pretty old. But it's modern in that if you were to pick this up, if you've ever been to a church and you were to pick this up, you would know what to do with it. The hymns they have a number, they have the words between the stanzas that give you soprano, alto, tenor, bass music. There's musical notation. There's usually, in this hymnal, there's a scripture verse, and then there's information here about the composer and the writer of the hymn itself. The hymn, by the way, is the poetry. The music is not called a hymn, it's called a hymn tune. And if this were a musicology course, I would give you more definitions about what makes something a hymn as opposed to something else. But I'm not going to today, partly because I didn't research it and I have not remembered the details. I should have planned this a little better, Miss Carol. All right, I'm definitely cutting some of these things out. Definitely, because this is crazy. I don't know why I went there, really. Maybe I'll cut the whole thing out. Now that I've talked about it so much. If I start now, you'll wonder, what did she cut out? Well, we'll see. I might. A few years ago, like a lot of years ago, 40 years ago, I got really interested in shape note singing. Shape note, now this is a very old book. Here's the back of it. You can just barely see that it's printed. And this is Southern Harmony. No, yes, it is Southern Harmony and Musical Companion. And this is the second edition, which was published in, this is new edition, thoroughly revised and greatly improved, 1847, I think. And the compiler is William Walker. And he didn't write all these hymns, but he did write a lot of them. And then he goes on, and we have the preface to an earlier edition in here, which is 1835. Now, when we start talking 1847, 1835, we're definitely in the time frame of many of the reproduction samplers that we have stitched, aren't we? So this, in America, especially in Southern America, this is the kind of hymn singing that might have happened. In fact, shape note music was sung in civic organizations, even though a lot of it was Christian songs. And in this book, I'm just going to hold this up. This is what the music looks like. And so you see at the top, there's the name of the tune, and then the meter. This is common meter, and it's 3 or 4 part harmony. And you see the words are only down there. They aren't printed below every stave, every part of the stave, I mean, the way modern choral music is. So if you were a soprano, you would read this line up here, but of music, but you would have to read the words from down here. And can you see that the notes are different shapes? Not only are they different heights and open or closed notes, and just as a contrast, these notes are all oval. This is modern notation. Shape note notation is also called solfa notation, where a syllable was attached to each shape. And if you learned your solfege, you'd be able to sing at sight from this kind of a hymnal by noticing the shape of the notes. Also, whether it went up or down, of course, and whether it was open or closed, whether it had flags on it to indicate its meter, tempo, length of the notes. But that, anyway, is shape note singing. And there was a time that a couple of friends, Byron and I, are tenor and alto, and we knew another couple who were soprano and bass, and we would sing shape note songs together, 4-part shape note songs in harmony. And if there weren't 4 parts, then soprano and tenor would sing in octaves, so Byron and Susan would sing together, and then I would sing the alto part, and Larry would sing the bass part. And we were the Martin Williams Quartet, and we sang a few times in church, I think. And there was an Easter festival where there was sort of a coffee house area, and we sang there. Actually, that might have been after Larry died, and we roped in someone else to sing bass with us. But it's a very fun type of singing, and it's polyphonic. There's often like fugues where different voices are singing different things at the same time, as opposed to a straightforward hymn setting where you might be singing in harmony, but you're all singing the words at the same time. So leading up to shape note, the 1830s, was American hymnody in the New England area. And William Billings was a major composer, and here's a CD, which this is a fantastic CD. These are 16 of his pieces that he wrote. Many of them were not intended for the congregation to sing, but were choir pieces. And our choir at church has sung a lot of these. The Easter anthem is especially good, which is the last cut on this CD. That's a great CD. Another really great one, and this is songs that are in this Southern Harmony book, is this one, Rivers of Delight by the Word of Mouth Chorus. Isn't that a great name? And these people sound like people would have sounded like. I should have blocked that out. Oh well, you know where I live. That's all right. These people sound like a group of amateur singers singing, and that's probably what they are. And what a great thing. Now this, I know you can just Google this on, well, not, you can just search for Word of Mouth Chorus or Rivers of Delight on YouTube, and you will find everything from this CD on YouTube. Excellent stuff. In its way, you know, if you don't like it, you won't like it. But, and I think maybe this William Billings CD is also available. It may also be available. So, anyway, if you're interested in listening to that kind of music. So the reason I bring it up is because the early 19th century is when many of our samplers, our reproduction samplers, were originally stitched. And many of the ones I've been stitching were created in England or somewhere in the British Isles, or in America in the North. For instance, the Jane Boyer samplers that I've done in the North. So the Southern Harmony would not have been part of the musical context that these young stitchers would have known. But it was the musical context for that time period in certain sections of the country. And so I think it's kind of interesting. That's your fault, Teresa. I'll also say about William Billings, he was born in 1746 and died in 1800. So his music, there are some reproduction samplers from the late 1700s. In fact, I bought a Hands Across the Sea one recently, but I'm pretty sure it was stitched in Scotland. I don't know of American one. I'm sure there are American samplers stitched in that era. In fact, there is one in the collection of the Leroy Historical Society that is from the 1700s. I think it was even stitched in Connecticut, possibly. And William Billings would definitely have been known of in Connecticut. So maybe there's an overlap there. But it is very interesting to consider what was going on in the world. These stitchers were mostly children, and they were probably more shielded, a lot more shielded from what was going on in the world than our children are today, because everybody was less knowledgeable about what was going on in the world then. You had to wait for news to come to you. The newspaper had to be delivered to you somehow, or you had to get a letter from your relative or your friend who lived somewhere else who could tell you what was going on. Nonetheless, they did know some things that were going on, and it's interesting to link historical events, or other artistic or creative expressions that would have been happening at the same time as our samplers. Just kind of an interesting side note that Teresa's Instagram post caused me to think about. Well, friends, thanks for watching. I will be back next week. I will not be back the following week. I probably will be back the week after that, though I'm traveling in there, and so I might not have much to show for it in terms of stitching. But I'll have stories to tell, because, you know, that's part of the point, isn't it? Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're enjoying your summer days and staying cool enough, or warm enough if you happen to be in the Southern Hemisphere. And many blessings to you, friends.